Marcus Chun sat in the corner booth of the Nexus Point Cantina, watching ice crystals form on his drink. The space station hummed around him with the sounds of 1,000 species doing business. He had been waiting for 20 minutes. The door hissed open. A Velthrian administrator glided in, its 6 eyes scanning the crowded room until they fixed on Marcus. The creature moved with the fluid grace of its waterworld origins, its translucent skin shifting colors as it approached. "Mr. Chun," the Velthrian said, settling across from him. "I am Administrator Kel. Thank you for coming." Marcus nodded. He had dealt with countless alien species in his 15 years as a xenofauna tracker. The job had taken him from the frozen moons of Jupiter to the burning deserts of Kepler 442b. He had tracked crystal beetles the size of houses and hunted void whales through nebula fields. But something about this meeting felt different. Kel placed a data pad on the table. The holographic display showed a creature that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. It was massive, kilometers long, with wings that looked like they were carved from pure starlight. Its body was crystalline, refracting light into 1,000 colors. "Vraxis Prime," Kel said, "a stellar dragon, one of the last of its kind." Marcus leaned forward, studying the image. He had heard stories about the stellar dragons, ancient beings that fed on radiation from stars. Most people thought they were myths. "It's real," he whispered. "Very real," Kel replied, "and very dangerous. In the past 4 months, Vraxis has destroyed 7 mining vessels in the Epsilon sector. 342 lives lost. It attacked a research station last week. 89 more dead." The numbers hit Marcus like physical blows. He had never hunted anything that had killed so many. "The Galactic Conservation Coalition is offering 5 million credits for elimination," Kel continued. "We need someone with your skills. Someone who can track it through deep space and finish the job." Marcus picked up the data pad, scrolling through the information. The attack reports showed torn hulls and shattered stations. But something nagged at him as he read. The mining operations were all in the same sector, the same small area of space. "Why there?" Marcus asked. "Why is it attacking in just one location?" Kel's skin flickered orange, a sign of irritation in Velthrian body language. "Does it matter? The creature is a threat. It must be stopped." Marcus had spent his early years working for Earth's Conservation Service. He had seen what happened when people asked the wrong questions, when they shot first and understood later. Entire species had been wiped out because no one stopped to ask why. "I need to think about it," Marcus said. "Mr. Chin, 5 million credits. That's enough to retire. Enough to never work again." Kel leaned forward. "We've also acquired something special for this hunt. A prototype neural disruptor designed specifically for crystalline organisms. It will shatter the dragon's matrix instantly. Clean. Efficient." Marcus looked at the weapon specifications on the datapad. It was beautiful in a terrible way, engineered for one purpose: killing Vraxis. He thought about his grandfather, who had taught him to hunt in the forests of old Earth before they were mostly gone. The old man had always said that a true hunter must respect what they hunt, must understand it. Never take a life without knowing why, his grandfather had told him. But 342 people were dead. That was hard to ignore. "I'll do it," Marcus said finally, "but I want full access to all the data. Every report, every scan of the sector." Kel's skin shifted to a pleased blue. "Of course. Everything will be transferred to your ship. The Quiet Dawn, correct?" "That's right." "Excellent. The weapon will be delivered within the hour. How soon can you depart?" Marcus drained his drink, feeling the cold liquid burn down his throat. "Tomorrow morning. I need to prepare." After Kel left, Marcus sat alone in the booth. Through the cantina's viewport, he could see the stars stretching endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, Vraxis Prime was flying through the darkness. A creature of legend made real. He wondered what it would feel like to see something so ancient, so magnificent, and then destroy it. The 5 million credits would change his life. But he could not shake the feeling that something about this contract was wrong. Marcus stood and walked toward the docking bay where his ship waited. Tomorrow, he would begin the hunt. Tonight, he had research to do. The quiet dawn slipped through the crimson nebula like a shadow. Marcus sat in the pilot seat, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. The nebula glowed red around his ship, clouds of ionized gas that stretched for millions of kilometers. Somewhere in this cosmic fog, Vraxis was hiding. He had been tracking the dragon for 3 days now. The trail was subtle, traces of radiation signatures, and disturbed gas patterns that most hunters would miss. But Marcus had learned to read space the way his grandfather had read forest tracks. The neural disruptor sat mounted beneath his ship, its targeting computer linked to his controls. One shot. That was all he would need. Marcus reviewed the attack reports again as he flew. Something still bothered him about the pattern. All the destroyed ships had been mining vessels or stations. No passenger ships, no exploration craft, just industrial operations, all in the same sector. Computer, show me a map of the Epsilon sector. Mark all attack locations and all corporate mining sites. The holographic display lit up before him. Red dots marked where Vraxis had struck. Blue dots showed mining operations. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Every attack site was directly on top of a mining location. Not near them, on top of them. Computer, when were these mining operations established? The Epsilon Sector Mining Initiative began 4 months ago. The computer replied in its neutral voice. 17 mining vessels and 3 processing stations were deployed. For months, the same time the attacks had started. Marcus was about to dig deeper when his sensors screamed. Something massive was moving through the nebula ahead. His hands flew over controls, bringing the ship to a stop. There, emerging from a cloud of crimson gas, was Vraxis Prime. Marcus had seen the images, but nothing had prepared him for the reality. The dragon was enormous, its crystalline body catching the nebula's light and throwing it back in cascades of color. Its wings stretched wide, each one larger than a city block, made of some material that seemed to be half matter and half pure energy. But something was wrong. Marcus zoomed in his visual scanners. The dragon's hide was scarred. Deep cracks ran through its crystalline surface, some still glowing with heat from recent wounds. This was not the unstoppable monster from the reports. This was a creature that had been hurt badly. Vraxis moved slowly through space, its flight pattern irregular. Marcus engaged his tracking systems, following at a distance. The dragon was not hunting. It was not attacking. It was flying with purpose towards something specific. Hours passed as Marcus shadowed the creature. His hand rested near the firing control for the neural disruptor. One shot. That was all it would take. He could end this now, collect his 5 million credits, and be done. But he did not fire. Vraxis led him deeper into the asteroid field that bordered the nebula. The dragon moved between the spinning rocks with surprising grace despite its injuries. Marcus had to concentrate to keep up without being detected. Then Vraxis stopped near a large asteroid that drifted alone. The dragon circled it once, twice, its movements almost gentle. Marcus watched, confused, as the creature positioned itself between the asteroid and open space. "What are you doing?" Marcus whispered to himself. He adjusted his sensors, scanning the asteroid. His computer pinged. There was an opening, a cave that had been hollowed out somehow. The readings showed unusual crystalline formations inside. Marcus's heart began to beat faster. He moved the quiet dawn closer, using the cover of smaller asteroids. His ship's advanced sensors penetrated deeper into the cave. What he saw made him freeze. 3 shapes huddled together in the asteroid heart. They were smaller than Vraxis, each about the size of a shuttlecraft. Their crystalline bodies were dull, not yet fully formed. As Marcus watched, one of them moved, unfurling a tiny wing that barely glowed. Hatchlings. The word echoed in Marcus's mind. Vraxis Prime was not a mindless killer. She was a mother, and every destroyed mining ship, every shattered station, had been in defense of this place. Her nest. Marcus sat back in his chair, his hands shaking. He pulled up the files Administrator Kell had given him, searching with new eyes. There, buried in the geological surveys, was the truth. The Coalition had known about this asteroid field. They had known about the nesting ground, and they had sent mining operations here anyway. Outside his viewport, Vraxis Prime floated between her children and the universe, wounded and exhausted, but still protecting them. Marcus's finger hovered over the firing control. One shot, 5 million credits. His retirement. He pulled his hand away. Marcus drifted closer to the asteroid, keeping his ship's engines at minimum power. Vraxis remained motionless, her massive form blocking the entrance to the nest. Her crystalline body pulsed with a faint light, dimmer than it should be. She was dying, Marcus realized. The wounds were too severe. He activated his ship's external audio sensors. At first, he heard nothing but the usual silence of space. Then the computer filtered the readings, translating subsonic vibrations into sound. A crying, high-pitched and desperate. The hatchlings were calling for their mother. The sound made something twist inside Marcus's chest. He had heard similar cries before, back on Earth. Wolf pups separated from their pack. Dolphin calves lost in polluted waters. The universal sound of young creatures in distress. Marcus pulled up the deeper files in the Coalition database, the ones Kell had not mentioned. His security clearance as a licensed hunter gave him access to records most people never saw. He started reading, and with each line his anger grew hotter. The Epsilon Sector Geological Survey had been completed 8 months ago. The report clearly identified the asteroid field as a breeding ground for stellar dragons, one of only 3 known sites in the entire galaxy. The survey team had recommended marking it as a protected zone. That recommendation had been rejected. 3 weeks later, the mining initiative had been approved. 17 ships sent directly into the nesting ground. The survey team's objections were buried in the files, stamped with red warnings about economic priorities and resource extraction urgency. Marcus found a video log from the lead surveyor, a human woman named Dr. Sarah Kim. Her face filled his screen, exhausted and angry. "They're ignoring everything we found," she said into the camera. "The stellar dragons are critically endangered. Maybe 20 individuals left in the known galaxy. This nesting site could be their last chance for survival. But the mining corporations don't care. They found iridium deposits in those asteroids. Rich ones. So they're going in anyway." The video cut off. Marcus searched for Dr. Kim's current location. The computer showed a death certificate. She had been aboard the research station when Vraxis attacked it, when Vraxis defended her children from the machines tearing apart their home. 89 dead, 342 total. Marcus felt sick, but those numbers meant something different now. Vraxis had not started this war. Humans and their corporate allies had brought the war to her. A proximity alarm jerked Marcus back to the present. Vraxis was moving. The dragon turned her massive head toward his ship. For a moment, Marcus thought she would attack. His hand moved instinctively toward the controls. But Vraxis did not charge. Instead, she drifted slightly to the side. Not much, just enough to give Marcus a clear view into the nest. Was she showing him? Could she understand that he was different from the mining ships? Marcus guided the quiet dawn forward slowly. Vraxis tracked his movement, but did not interfere. He positioned his ship near the asteroid's opening and activated his external cameras. The 3 hatchlings huddled together in the center of the hollowed space. Their bodies were pale crystal, still developing. One was smaller than the others, its wings barely formed. As Marcus watched, it tried to unfurl them and failed. It fell against its siblings, crying out in that subsonic frequency that a computer translated into heartbreaking sound. "Computer, analyze the hatchlings. How old are they?" "Estimated age, 6 to 7 weeks. Stellar dragon young. Remain dependent on parental care for approximately 3 months after hatching. They cannot process stellar radiation efficiently until their crystalline structure fully matures. 3 months. These babies needed their mother for 3 more months. Without her, they would starve. Their undeveloped bodies could not feed themselves on the radiation from distant stars." Marcus looked back at Vraxis. The mother dragon floated nearby, her wound still weeping some kind of luminescent fluid into space. She was watching him, waiting. His communicator crackled to life. Administrator Kell's voice filled the cockpit. Mr. Chun, we've detected you in the target zone. Status report. Have you engaged Raxus Prime? Marcus stared at the weapon controls. The neural disruptor was armed and ready. One shot would shatter Vraxus's crystalline matrix, killing her instantly. Then he could eliminate the hatchlings. Clean, efficient, 5 million credits. He thought about his grandfather again, about the last hunt they had taken together, tracking a wounded bear through the mountains. They had found it protecting its cubs. His grandfather had lowered his rifle. Some things, the old man had said, are more important than the hunt. Marcus took a deep breath and made his choice. Negative, he said into the communicator. Target escaped into a radiation storm. Lost the trail. What? Mr. Chun, your sensors should... Marcus cut the connection and began working on his targeting computer, carefully corrupting the data logs. He had just made himself a liar, and possibly a criminal. But looking at those 3 hatchlings crying in the dark, he knew he could live with that. The communicator exploded with voices. Administrator Kell was not alone anymore. Marcus recognized the harsh tones of Coalition security officers and the cold precision of corporate executives. Mr. Chun, your sensor data does not match your report, Kell said. Our satellite network shows you stationary in the asteroid field. Explain. Marcus killed his ship's transponder. It would buy him time, but not much. Equipment malfunction. I'm running diagnostics now. Mr. Chun, return to Nexus Point immediately for debriefing. Understood. Chun out. He closed the channel and sat in silence. They would send other hunters. More ships. Better weapons. Vraxus and her hatchlings had days at most before the Coalition sent a kill team that would not hesitate. Marcus looked at the neural disruptor mounted beneath his ship. Slowly, deliberately, he aimed it away from Vraxus and fired into empty space. The weapon discharged with a brilliant flash, its specialized energy dissipating harmlessly into the void. Then he activated the disruptor's self-destruct sequence. The weapon broke apart into useless fragments. Computer, purge all tracking data on Vraxus Prime. Make it look like corrupted files. Warning. This action violates your contract with the Galactic Conservation Coalition. Legal consequences may include... I know. Do it anyway. The computer complied. Marcus watched as weeks of careful tracking data dissolved into digital noise. His entire hunt erased. He was now officially a failure and possibly a traitor. His hands moved over controls, bringing up star charts of nearby systems. He needed a place where stellar dragons could survive. Somewhere with the right kind of radiation, no corporate interests, and far enough away that the Coalition would not think to look. Hours passed as Marcus searched. Vraxus remained near the nest, growing weaker. The hatchling's cries had become constant now, a sound that tore at Marcus's heart. Finally, he found it. An uncharted system 7 light-years away, hidden behind a dense radiation barrier that made conventional scanning impossible. The system had a young star, bright and hot, perfect for stellar dragons to feed. And according to his deep space maps, no one had bothered to claim it. The radiation barrier made it too dangerous for mining operations. But how could he move them? Vraxus was too injured to make the journey. The hatchlings could not fly through deep space yet, and his ship was not designed to transport kilometer-long crystalline organisms. Marcus stared at his control panel, thinking. Then an idea formed, crazy and desperate. Stellar dragons fed on radiation. They followed it, drawn to sources of energy like moss to flame. What if he could create a trail of radiation for them to follow? His ship's reactor could be modified to leak controlled amounts of energy. Not enough to damage the Quiet Dawn, but enough to create a path through space. It would drain his ship's power reserves. He would be stranded afterward, drifting until someone found him. If someone found him, and if the Coalition discovered what he had done, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Marcus made his decision. He spent the next 6 hours rewiring his ship's reactor, creating a radiation bleed system that his engineering professors would have called suicidal. His hands worked automatically while his mind wrestled with what he was about to do. Everyone he knew would call him insane. He was throwing away 5 million credits, destroying his reputation. becoming a fugitive. For what? For a creature that had killed hundreds of people? But those people had come to destroy her home, to tear apart the asteroids where her children were born. Vraxis had not asked for this war. Marcus thought about humanity's history. The wars, the extinctions, the countless species wiped out because they were inconvenient or unprofitable. Humans had spread across the galaxy like a plague, taking and destroying. He had seen it on a dozen worlds. But humans were also capable of something else, something that made other species stop and stare in confusion. Humans could choose mercy when logic said otherwise. They could sacrifice themselves for creatures they barely understood. It made no sense to the cold mathematics of survival, yet it was the most human thing of all. Marcus activated his modified reactor. A stream of controlled radiation began flowing from the quiet dawn, creating a glowing trail in space. He positioned his ship at the edge of the asteroid field, pointing toward the distant uncharted system. Then he opened a general frequency channel. "Vraxis," he said, knowing she could not understand his words, but hoping she might understand his intent. "Follow me. I'll take you somewhere safe." The great dragon stirred. Her head turned toward his ship, toward the radiation trail. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Vraxis pushed herself away from the asteroid. She moved slowly, painfully, but she moved. Behind her, the three hatchlings emerged from a nest, drawn by their mother's movement and the promise of energy. Marcus engaged his engines and began the longest journey of his life. The quiet dawn cut through space with a ribbon of radiation trailing behind it like a bright thread through darkness. Marcus kept his speed slow, watching his sensors as Vraxis and her hatchlings followed. The mother dragon stayed close to her young, nudging them forward when they faltered. They had been flying for 2 days. Marcus's power reserves were dropping faster than he had calculated. The modified reactor was stable, but it consumed fuel at an alarming rate. He would make it to the uncharted system, barely. Getting back would be impossible. On the 3rd day, everything went wrong. "Warning," his computer announced. "Multiple ships approaching. Configuration matches coalition patrol vessels." Marcus's heart sank. 5 ships appeared on his sensors, coming fast. They must have been tracking his energy signature. He had been a fool to think the radiation trail would not draw attention. A communication channel opened. This time it was not Administrator Kell. The voice was human, cold and military. "Unidentified vessel. You're transporting protected specimens without authorization. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." Protected specimens. They still called them that, as if Vraxis and her children were just property. Marcus did not respond. He pushed his engines harder, knowing it was useless. His ship was designed for tracking, not speed. The coalition vessels would overtake him in minutes. Then something unexpected happened. 3 new ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, positioning themselves between Marcus and the coalition patrol. These ships were different, a mix of designs from a dozen alien species. Pirates, maybe, or smugglers. A new voice crackled over the radio, speaking in heavily accented English. "Marcus Chun, yes? The human who saved the KRYLO nesting grounds on Theta Station." Marcus blinked in surprise. That had been 5 years ago. A simple job tracking invasive species that had turned into a rescue mission when he discovered the aliens were trying to protect their eggs, not attack the station. "Yes, that was me," Marcus said cautiously. "Good. We owe you a debt. The KRYLO did not forget." The voice switched to another language, issuing rapid commands. The 3 ships spread out, creating a defensive screen. "Go. We will delay them." "You'll be arrested," Marcus said. "Perhaps. But debts must be paid. Go now, human." The coalition ships opened fire. Energy bolts streaked through space, missing the KRYLO vessels by meters. Marcus saw his chance and took it. He angled the quiet dawn away, pushing his dying reactor to its limits. Behind him, the KRYLO ships danced and weaved, leading the coalition patrol on a chase away from Marcus's position. He did not know if they would survive. He only knew they had given him a gift he could never repay. For more days passed. Marcus's fuel reserves hit critical levels. The hatchlings were growing stronger, their wings beginning to glow with stored energy. Vraxis seemed a bit more stable, though her wounds still wept light into space. They crossed the radiation barrier into the uncharted system. Marcus's ship shuddered as exotic particles battered his shields, but they held. On the other side, the young star blazed like a promise. Vraxis sensed it. The dragon surged forward with sudden strength, spreading her wings wide. The star's radiation washed over her crystalline body, and for the first time, Marcus saw her wounds begin to seal. The hatchlings cried out in joy, tumbling through space toward the life-giving light. Marcus guided them to a stable asteroid field orbiting the star. It was perfect, dozens of hollowed rocks suitable for nesting, and rich radiation from the young sun. Vraxis circled the field once, then dove toward the largest asteroid. Her children followed. Marcus watched them disappear into their new home. His fuel gauge flashed red. Warning lights covered his control panel. The quiet dawn had nothing left to give. He sent out a distress beacon, knowing it might bring the coalition or it might bring no one. Then he settled back in his chair and watched the hatchlings play. They emerged from the asteroid after a few minutes, their bodies glowing brighter now. They tested their wings, learning to catch the star's radiation and convert it to energy. The smallest one, the weak one that had struggled in the nest, spread its wings and flew. Actually flew, spinning and tumbling with pure joy. Vraxis appeared last. She was still scarred, still marked by the battle she had fought, but she was alive. She would heal. Her children would grow. And maybe, just maybe, the stellar dragons would not go extinct after all. Marcus's communicator beeped. A message coded and anonymous. Another mission waiting. Coordinates attached. Species needs help. He looked at the coordinates, then at his fuel gauge. Impossible. He was stranded, light years from anywhere. But Marcus smiled anyway. He had been sent to bring death. Instead, he had chosen to bring life. Whatever came next, he could live with that choice. Outside his viewport, 3 young dragons danced in starlight, and their mother watched over them, finally safe.